Do you ever feel like you're juggling a million versions of yourself and still dropping the ball? Like you're switching hats all day, professional, partner, parent, friend, and no one really sees what it takes to just be you? Yeah, me too. Welcome to Hat Rack with Hannah. I'm Hannah, therapist, entrepreneur, author, podcast host, and also a mom, partner, daughter, friend, basically a professional hat wearer. I created this space where you don't have to minimize what you're carrying or rush past it. Because the truth is, you can have big dreams and feel overwhelmed by the roles it takes to hold them. Both get to exist. Here we slow it down, call it what it is, take some hats off, and figure out what actually belongs in your rack. So take a deep breath. You can set something down here, and let's get into it. Welcome back, Hat Rack listeners. I'm your host, Hannah, and this is our guest, Chelsea. So Chelsea is a fractional brand strategist with 20 years of experience, a two-time business owner herself. She's worked with everyone from startups to million and billion-dollar companies. She works with founders, usually the girls and the gays, whose brands aren't matching their level of brilliance and credibility. She fixes that through deep brand foundation work, structure, messaging, positioning to get a founder's story out of their head and into a strategy everyone on the team can use. She's a trauma-informed mental health advocate who works with the entire founder. Less about pretty brand colors, more about what you got here, what matters to you, and the legacy you want to leave. Outside of work, Chelsea enjoys stand-up comedy, thrifting, and never says no to a vegan donut. She's a dog mom to a three-legged schnauzer named Olive and a proud active member of the queer community. Whether she's untangling a multifaceted brand or facilitating a workshop, Chelsea's goal is the same: make the brand work as hard as the person behind it. Welcome.
Hi.
We are so happy to have you, especially as we've been talking about aligned businesses and just alignment as a whole. So this just could not be any better.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about what you do in your words, not the bio version.
Great question. Basically, I like seeing how incredible founders are, the girls and gays, as you said, usually. And then I'll go look at their presence or their messaging and find that they do not match. They are so much more incredible than their branding, their messaging, whatever is saying. And I like to bridge that gap together, work with the whole founder, mental health informed, talk about the whole journey, not just what brand colors do you want?
Yeah. I love that though, because I do see oftentimes, and I've struggled with this as an owner, like how I want to be perceived or how I want to put myself out there doesn't match what I'm putting out there for all the limiting
Mhm.
beliefs that life gives us. So is it like a you approach and get to know the person and then actually put them out there, if you will, how they are?
Yeah. Yeah. So I work with a lot of founders who say the same thing of I don't think how I'm presenting matches who I
Yeah.
am actually. So I always start with a what I call a brand interview, but I'm never asking, so what do you do? Because no one can answer that. I can't even answer that, and this is my job. But it's like a 2-hour interview, and I'm asking such in-depth questions that you probably have never thought of because that's what helps me get to know the person. And then I can write that into their why and why they even started this business and what matters to them and who they want to help and all of those things instead of just, I'm a therapist. There's a lot more to you than that.
Yeah. So more
Yeah.
matching their reality to their business. And when you're
Mhm.
evaluating this, what are some of the in-depth questions you're asking
Ooh,
in that
preview.
interview?
Let's see. Should I just pull one up right now? What did you do before? What was the breaking point that led you to starting this business? Do your current clients match who you actually want to be working with, or is there a discrepancy
Mhm.
in who you want to be working with and who you are? We get into the brand questions too, obviously, but it's usually more of what do you hate?
Yeah.
And even then, I might present something you hate because it matches with what you said and not what you think you hate. So, yeah, just a lot of varying questions. And then I synthesize all of that together to create what I think is actually going on in there instead of what you
Yeah.
think. it should be or what you think the brand has to be because of the competitors or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think we often feel like we're actually presenting how we authentically are, and then we are pulling in people who are not authentic to us, and then we realize, oh, wait, these things aren't aligned.
Yep. Which is usually a good indication that your branding is not speaking to the right person or saying the right thing if you're not bringing in
Yeah.
the person that you want. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And then do you work on social media presence or like websites or like ads or like what creative content?
So I don't really make any deliverables anymore. I used to. I was a designer and creative director for 17 years or something.
Okay.
And then I have found I'm much more interested in the founder themselves. So I'm doing the really deep foundation work that all of that stuff is going to branch off from. So when we
Okay.
have your why and your mission, vision, values, and your driving belief and your brand promise and all these different pieces, then you can hand that off to anyone. You can hand that off to a writer, you can hand that off to a designer, and they know exactly how to look and sound like you, but you've already done all of that work to be able to pass it to someone instead of hiring someone and every time going, I don't know, just look at what I've done before and make it like that.
Match
Like
it.
you're able to give a
Right.
lot more clear direction. And then it also just saves you time and money because then you're not having to re-onboard people every single time. You have one book, you send it to them, you can learn exactly who they are, what they want, what their business is about, and move from there instead of retraining every single person you hire.
So you are the person behind the curation and understanding of founders and not only their brand, but what they want to put out there.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Because it is a lot more than just a brand strategist. I'm hearing there's a lot of different steps here.
Yeah, I don't really know what to call myself.
I love those
So,
spaces though. That means we're doing a lot of different things that are unique.
yes, I was recently told I'm a whole creative studio in one person, which I don't know if that's true,
I
but
believe it.
that's a nice thing to say. But yeah, I do find it is a lot more than brand strategy because like entrepreneurs, we all start this stuff because we're passionate about something. And I think that can we can easily lose sight of why we started it or what we want it to be. I feel like a lot of founders wake up one day and they're like, do I even like my brand? Do I even like my business? Do I even
Right.
want to do this anymore? And those are like the deep things that you need to answer first before you're moving on to anything else. So it's a lot more than brand strategy, but just what gets you excited? What gets you up in the morning? Who
Right.
are you passionate about helping? Like all of those questions are going to inform the strategy and everything else you do.
Yeah. And what makes you want to work with founders instead of just creative teams, for example, right?
Sure. So I worked in corporate for quite a while and I hated it. I don't know why I'm whispering. It's not a secret. I hated it.
I was gonna say
Um
we on the pod here know how I feel about corporate structures.
yeah, yeah. And I got really tired of being put in a box because I do love doing all these different things.
Yeah.
And it's not because I can't decide, it's because it's all connected. So you can't separate the person from the business, you can't separate the branding from the strategy. It all works together. And so when I would work in corporate and just have a title like an art director, but then I wanted to also help with the other things, I was always told, no, don't step outside of your lane. This is your job and that's it.
Mm.
And that would drive me nuts. And then just seeing people who I think are incredible, just not having the presence that matches it because there's so many incredible women doing incredible things and new businesses. And I want to make sure that the world knows just how
Yeah.
awesome they are. So I like working with the founders directly because that's where my passion is, first of all, is I
Yep.
just love working with people one on one. And I love being able to help in all these different sorts of ways because a lot of times clients come to me and they're like, I don't like it and I don't know why. Help. And then I'm like, cool, let's diagnose the problem and not some giant company that I'm helping someone else get rich. I'd rather help the
Yeah.
woman get rich.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. And I think too, there's so many nuances to specifically female founders because of all of our limiting beliefs and all of our societal norms. And we
Mm.
don't really realize how thick of a line that runs in our businesses until we're in them and we hate them, or we're in them and they're not actually serving us, right? And so I could see where the disconnect in like how you actually want to be presenting and how you are presenting occurs, especially when you are trying to meet your bottom line, right?
Yeah. Which is another reason that this formation piece is so important because, yeah, of course, you're going to get distracted by that and distracted by the bottom line or
Right.
these shiny things that you think you want to be doing but don't actually align with what you're setting out to do. And so I find it's a good North Star for people. So any question or crossroads they start to have in their business can usually be answered by going back and remembering why they started this, why they're here
Yeah.
to help them answer all of those questions.
Girl, you're about to get me in my own head.
Oh no.
No, not in a bad way, but like when you are in points of reevaluation, I think this is also, I don't think there's ever one point in a founder's experience where this comes up. I feel like this comes up all the time, specifically in transition or specifically in points where you're like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? In order to make changes or pivots. And I think it's
Mhm.
healthy, but honestly, it should be something we're evaluating all the time. But I don't think we evaluate it until we're at a point where we're forced to. And that's also not where we're going to get the best from it.
Yeah.
Starting here is a much better scenario.
Yeah, I have a client who has been running her business the same way successfully for 8 years or so, but she has kids. She wants to be home with them. She doesn't want to be busy every single weekend, all of these things, but she thought she had to keep running her business in that specific way.
Yeah,
But when we go back and we look at why she even started the business, it was so that she could be there for her kids. She wanted to work for herself so that she was around and so that they had her to look up to, all of these things. And so her business became the exact opposite of what she set out to do. And so I find a lot of times it's me giving permission of you don't have to do what you started, or you don't have to do this current iteration, even though it's probably scary as hell for you. And sure, there's going to be maybe dips in profitability or whatever, but you're not going to be happy if it's not aligned with why you actually did this in the first place.
completely. Girl, you have this talent of reading me for filth, and I feel you just exposed my life.
Sorry?
So
Question mark?
our just so our listeners and viewers have some history here. So we met on a retreat we were just recently at, and
Mhm.
at that time we met, Chelsea was like, "Oh, so that's an interesting brand name." And now she's talking about her client's example is very close to where I'm at, and not in a bad way. I know
Mhm.
it comes from love, but I think that is honestly just I completely can resonate with your client because that's definitely where I've been, where it's like I've created this business to serve me, but when I created this business, I was single. I was working till 9 o'clock at night, and it's because I could. And now I'm a mom and I'm a partner and I have three other businesses. And
You bring up a good point, which is like your foundation can change. So maybe
yep,
you did all of this work when you started, when you were not a mom, not married, all of these things. And obviously, your life is going to completely turn upside down when they change. So it makes sense to go back to the drawing board and reconnect with yourself, which is why I ask all of those millions of questions up front. Because
yeah,
I don't want to know what you have been doing or what you think you're supposed to be doing. I want to know what actually speaks to you. And let's rewrite the guidebook you're living by because it's old. You need a new one.
completely. And I just redid my work boundaries in June, and they literally just went into effect this week. And it's just interesting because I was like, oh, when I have my kid, I'm going to redo this all. And then she turns due in September, and now I'm redoing it all. But sometimes we just have to get to that point.
Yeah,
But
I feel like that's a lot like therapy where
yeah. Oh,
people should have maintenance regularly, but a lot of times they don't find it until they're in crisis. Mental health crisis versus brand crisis is very different, but same kind of
yeah.
concept.
But we can feel like they're aligned sometimes because if when
True.
your brand and your business are your baby.
And your livelihood, that's obviously
Ah,
going to affect your mental health.
yep.
So, yeah, just regular maintenance, even when you're not in crisis, is the most important, which is why we go to doctors anyway for our annual checkups. Why don't we do that in mental health? Why don't we do that in our businesses?
So important. And we started this month with me discussing how, yes, you have strategy for your business, but you also need to have strategy for your nervous system because if your nervous
Mm.
system is not aligned with your business strategy and they are not one, it doesn't matter what the hell your business strategy is because you're done.
Yeah, you're gonna get so burnt out and you're gonna get bitter and you're gonna just want to quit your business one day.
And
When
like
there
you're
was
talking about too, right? If you're putting out there that's the space that you're at, then you're not even attracting clients you want to work with.
exactly. Yep.
Absolutely. So why do you make a note of being trauma informed for your business? Because that's something you and I've talked about before. I obviously, as a bias therapist, fully agree with that, but I feel like that's only in the mental health space. So why do you also apply that to what you do and the magic you make?
So I'm a trauma survivor myself, and I have been pretty much in therapy my entire adult life, which is to some people might sound sad, but to me, it's like a badge of honor. I have really taken what I was handed and turned it around. And that feeds into who I am every single day, the way I show up every single day,
Mhm.
regardless if it has to do with mental health technically or not. I'm still going to be talking about it. And I love to support my founders in that way because a lot of times you're processing a lot of hard stuff, like
Yeah.
your business changing, or maybe you do want to just close the business and burn it all down, but that's going to be emotional. And I'm never going to be someone who is trying to get you to rush through the process or tell you you shouldn't be this upset. Why are you this upset? But
Mhm.
instead, holding the space for you, maybe recommending some therapists in your area if you're open to that, because I am not a therapist, but just being aware enough to allow people to feel all of their feelings, encourage them to feel all of the feelings and not try to push them down or say, I feel this way, but society is telling me I should keep doing this because I'm making a lot of money. No. So I just like people to know that they're safe here.
Yeah.
I have seen all kinds of trauma. I've been in all kinds of trauma groups and just, yeah, holding space for the person to process through what they're processing is so important.
I love that so much and so deeply because I feel like this is so siloed as someone working with founders. Like, okay, that's all I do. And if you have a mental health component here, I'm not going to hold your hand through it. But I think that's often where coaches and supporters and creatives miss the mark because a lot of our brands and businesses as founders are closely linked to our worth, even though we want to detach them eventually. But that's how they start and that's how they, and so if you
Hmm.
can't sit with that with a person, like you're siloing and isolating them further, in my very biased therapist opinion, obviously.
Hey, therapists are my people. I think in another
I,
life I am a therapist, but not this one. I've gone so far as to get all my credits transferred, and then I was like, I don't know if this is the right move for me, but I love therapists. But yes, also something that I'm dealing with in my own life is dealing with mental health or chronic illness type things and how that affects my business and how that means I have to move slower than other people because that's just the reality of my situation.
yeah,
And comforting my own clients through that because it doesn't have to be mental health. Maybe it is they just had a baby, but
yeah,
and that's going to slow your business down, obviously, and it should.
yeah,
And how do you build that into the business instead of quote unquote making it work or forcing it or trying? Those
completely.
aren't, they're not harmonious.
Yeah,
So, how do we make them feel harmonious so that you can go back to doing what you love and you're not feeling this unnecessary pressure that you're putting on yourself? At least that's what I was feeling, having
yeah,
to keep up with all of these people and constantly feeling frustrated or ashamed that I couldn't keep up when, yeah, other people don't have to deal with what I have to deal with. And so it's okay, which you and I talked about at the
yeah.
retreat. It's okay that I need to plan around my health differently than other people.
Yeah. And I think somewhere along the way, we were, as founders, taught that you can't put yourself first in your
Mm,
business, but really we open businesses so it can accommodate our lifestyle and our life. And we forget that to serve the customer. But really, that's just ass backwards and honestly hurting us. So,
yeah.
how do you communicate or run your business based off your needs and in
Mm.
a way that's actually aligned with you instead of with the consumer, if you will?
I think a simple example is that I could do my work in a very quick timeline, potentially, but that's setting me up for failure. So I usually bake in plenty of down days for myself if I'm out for the count for chronic illness or for depression or whatever it is,
Yeah.
so that the client doesn't ever have to know something's going on with me. Because to a certain extent, my clients don't need to know about my personal life. So that's just something
Yeah,
I do for
absolutely.
myself to build in extra time. So maybe someone is wondering why it will take me 2 months when someone else can do it in 4 weeks. Fair question, but that's just the reality of my situation. And I just give myself buffers. And then if I actually am doing great and we finish it in half the time, we're all excited
Yeah,
instead of it going the other direction.
for sure. I love that you set it up though to serve you. What a
Yeah,
concept, right?
what a concept.
And there's often these pulls too. I remember this coming back from postpartum and also just like when I'm in my own stuff and I have clients, right? Like when life is lifing, of always feeling like I needed to provide my clients a reason. And I think that it's you hit a point in some at some point. It's just like a yeah, I don't need to do that anymore. I'm just gonna move and do what I need to do. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah. I agree. And it's hard for me personally. I've never been open about this stuff until I did this brand pivot and I had to create a Instagram, and I am showing up a lot differently than I have my whole life.
Wish you
And I'm
luck.
trying to be open about these things. So I had a new client tell me that she wants to know those things. She wants,
Yeah.
as a human to human, is happy to support. So if I have to say, hey, I'm going to be a few days late on this deadline, normally I would just push myself to finish it. So I never have to tell anyone that. Or I would say I'm sick, which I am, but it just sucks to have to step around the truth.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm finding my ideal client is someone who always puts people first. And of course, if a client tells me that I just can't focus on this week, I'm not in a good headspace, whatever. Of course, we don't want to build something when you're not in the right place to do it or the right headspace to do it. And so I try to teach or treat myself with the same way that I would treat a client, because we can be a lot more understanding and forgiving with other people than ourselves.
Weird. It's almost like you inject some grace into navigating your business.
Yes, but showing it to myself has been
The hardest.
new developments.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's hard when things are expected of us because although someone else is expecting it, we always expect it 10 times harder, right? So it's like, okay, wait, we can operate this and move through this in a way that actually serves us and the client without doing it to our detriment.
Yeah. And so that example is why I just started baking in more time. And
Yeah,
then I don't actually have to do that at all. And it saves me from the anxiety of having to
communicate
be
that.
be too vulnerable with anyone, but still taking care of myself. So I think you just kind of have to find the balance and what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah. And you just also alluded to this brand pivot. You also alluded to it earlier when you were like, I'm basically a whole one-stop shop. Tell us
Ay,
what
ay,
this
ay.
pivot looks like. Are we allowed to get a little inside scoop on what we're
Sure.
doing?
So similar to the clients that I help, I went into business for myself. So I worked in corporate as a designer for a very long time. And then I kept hitting the same ceiling of, no, you have to stay in this box. No, you have to stay in this box over and over again, to the point where I finally quit a job and was like, I'm not looking for another job in corporate. This is terrible. And so I just pushed myself off a ledge and said, we're going into business for ourselves. Good luck. Hopefully everything's fine. And so then I did that, and I did a little bit of everything. So a little bit of copywriting, a little bit of design, but it was still primarily design focused. And
Okay.
at the end of last year, I just was like, what is wrong with me? And I just kept asking, why are you sad?
Yeah.
Things are great on paper. You have a successful business, you have a good reputation. And I realized, oh, I am so bored, first of all. And I actually hate this. And I don't want to be a designer anymore, which of course sent me into a full-blown panic
Absolutely. Yep. We're in
of
a
like,
redefine life right now.
do I need to go back to school? What do I have to do? And then I started to realize that I love this piece that I've been describing that I don't really know how to describe yet,
Yeah.
and decided I really wanted to go and start doing that. And then my brain was so stuck in, okay, but how do I get qualified for something like that? And it took me a while until I realized, oh no, I already am qualified.
And I've
I
been
just have,
doing it.
and I've been doing it this whole time.
Yeah.
I just have to give myself permission to own that and not be so afraid of seeming whatever type of way.
Yeah.
But this is the work I love doing, so I should do it and I should talk about it. So now I've moved into doing more of this work. I don't design as much. I'll do it sometimes because I do letting it go a little bit has brought back some of the passion that I used to have for it, which is nice.
Okay.
But yeah, my day to day looks so different. I'm not by myself in my house designing in silence in a silo. And now I get to talk to other female founders every single day. And I get to be in community, like in masterminds and things with other women doing the same thing. And it has drastically helped my business, but also helped my mental health for
Yeah.
sure.
Sounds like you're honoring what you need, and that's like giving you
Yeah.
everything you also need.
It's like the whole point.
But it's interesting when we shift from driven, consumer driven to us driven, for lack of a
Mhm.
better way to put it.
Yeah. And it is scary to say, okay, I'm going to leave this thing that I've been successful in for 5 years, or I think I was doing my own official design business for 5 years, and push myself off another cliff
Yeah.
Can we stop pushing myself off cliffs,
I was gonna
please?
say it doesn't sound like it.
The answer is no, because things change. Life changes, like we were talking about earlier. You have a kid, you
Yeah.
have whatever. Things are always going to change, and you have to keep redefining what it is that you want. And I wanted to do more. I didn't want to just design assets for people. I wanted to help bring out their biggest desires. And the moment when someone gets to see everything that I've made for them, like after interviewing them for so long, and when they finally get to see it and read it and they feel seen by someone finally, and a lot of times they'll get teared up or emotional about it. Ugh, yes, please. That's all I want is to
That's the
help other
favorite.
people feel seen. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We have very similar missions in that regard of feeling seen, valued, and heard. And that's my mission in my therapeutic practice, but also what I've been learning is my mission in other businesses as well, because specifically as women, but also as female business owners, we're not allotted that and we don't give ourselves that. Like how you were saying earlier, giving yourself permission, giving others
Mhm.
permission. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, why is it so hard? It's crazy. I literally thought subconsciously that I needed someone to come and knock on my door and be like, by the way, you're allowed to
Yeah.
be a brand strategist or whoever. You're allowed to start an agency, whatever the hell you want to do, you're allowed to do it. And then I literally realized one night, oh, I just decide, I think.
Yeah, but we don't
And
give
it,
ourselves that often. Yeah.
no, and it blew my mind. And then I realized the only thing holding you back from the thing you want to do is literally you. You could
Yep.
start right now. And yeah, I don't know. It sounds like the most basic, simple thing, but it literally blew my mind.
I totally agree. And I think it's like we often, when we want to recreate ourselves, we set this high standard of what that looks like, but we don't often peel back the layers on like why that is and where we're coming from. And once we do that, it's, oh, I'm limiting me from doing the things. And if I weren't, this could be a very different scenario.
Yeah, which I know just seems, I feel like I've heard women say that my whole life, but it didn't click until I was in the
Yeah,
position myself. And
right.
now it's, oh, all the things I've been told by feminists or whoever were true. I didn't realize. I
Well,
should have just listened.
we don't realize though how ingrained these things are until you're in a
Yeah.
position where it's like, wait, I'm holding me back. And that's
Yeah.
the only thing holding me back. I love that you're talking about how you work with masterminds and different communities now and other female founders and like how that fills you up. I do that work as well. And I've been working with someone on just like reclaiming what I do in one of my businesses. And I used the word powerhouse because that is when I'm in my authentic self. That's how I would describe me as I'm a fucking powerhouse and that's just how it is. And I
Hmm.
wanted to vomit at that. I was like, oh my God, if I call myself a powerhouse, people are just going to look at that and scream yuck and run away. And I worked with this woman on this, and she was like, maybe that's only you, and other people would actually appreciate that. And it took me a while sitting with that to not want to vomit.
And if I had to guess, not to therapize a therapist, because I am not a therapist, I'm gonna guess there's some connection to someone making you feel badly about that in your past, of that you're too much or you're too whatever. And so you don't want to be labeled that. You don't want to label yourself the thing that you've been running from.
Oh, for
So
sure.
for me, I was always called dramatic and I was too much and I had too many emotions. And now I've reclaimed being like so in touch with emotions. And now I
Yeah,
help other people because I don't know, just that thing that people tried to make me feel bad about or small about is actually the superpower in my business.
absolutely.
And I feel like that might be the same for you, is that being a powerhouse
Completely.
is what makes you special.
And I think it's
Yeah.
like learning how deep that actually went and then learning to embody what I actually am, which is a powerhouse. But yeah, it definitely was very deep seated in the you need to be humble, specifically as a woman. You cannot be too big.
I
And
had the
like I
same
was,
one,
and it's
the
interesting
humble
though, because
one.
my mother was a business owner. She ran her own businesses all throughout my childhood. So I would never think that would be a narrative in my head, but of course it is. And I think it would, I think, I'm not going to speak for her, but I think she would even name that would be a narrative in her head at multiple times. But we
Yeah.
just don't go there until you actually put the time and energy to look at where your limiting beliefs are.
Yeah. And it also doesn't have to be parent, right? There's so many people that we
Right.
come in contact with in childhood, teachers, whoever, who are gonna say things that are going to stay with you forever. So even though you
Yep.
had this example of your mother, doesn't mean that other people at school or at sports teams or whatever didn't make you
Yeah.
feel a certain type of way. Maybe you were so happy you scored a goal one time and everyone told you to, okay, don't,
Calm
you're being
down.
so boastful. You need to calm
Right.
down. And of course, it's going to make you feel some type of way when you're a kid. And so then you just carry little things like that through your life until one day you can be like, oh, wait, I can actually own that thing. That's actually something people like about me, which, yeah,
But I
is what I
think,
found with all my emotions.
yeah, but I think it takes us time to figure out what that is and how you want to embody it because it's
Hmm.
so scary to decide to embody something that has always been a limiting thing, right? And so like when you do it, it can feel really powerful but horrifying. So we avoid it because we can.
Yeah, I just try to live by rule of thumb that if I'm scared to do something, that means I should do it.
Yep. I love
Which I
that
say
rule
in
of thumb.
therapy all the time. My therapist will ask me, here's the homework I would recommend. Are you good with doing that? I'm like, absolutely not. No, that sounds terrible. So yes, I will do it.
You're like,
Ugh.
I hate you and thank you for challenging me because I need it. I can't tell you how
Yes.
many people a week are like, I hate you, Hannah, and I don't want to do that homework, but I'll do it and I'll see you next
Mhm.
week. I'm like, sounds good.
And then we do the
Yeah,
things, and then we're like, oh, okay, I see your point now. I guess that was good exposure. That was a good thing to try, but yeah,
exactly.
sometimes it takes the push. So now I just try to listen to my own, oh, that's scary, which I have some of those happening in my life right now. And so I'm like, oh no, that means
You're like,
those
I
are the
am
exact things I have to do, which is terrifying.
being so challenged right now.
Yes, we're never done.
No, absolutely.
Mm.
But so how do your clients find you or like when in their journeys do they find you? Because when you're talking about your work, I picture it being most helpful for people when they're starting businesses, but also when they're in transitional moments. But I feel like if we did this before either of those points, it would actually be more helpful. So where do
Hmm.
you suggest people start?
I think working with a startup versus working with an established business owner, making some kind of a change or pivot or whatever is very different because a lot of times the brand new business, you just don't really know what you don't know yet. You
Mhm.
don't know what kind of things you're going to try, but actually you hate doing so much. So it is helpful to do in the beginning, but I find you get a lot more clarity after you've been doing it for a while and you've learned what makes you want to stab your eyes with a fork when you have to do it every day and the things that you lose track of time when you're doing because you love them so much. And having that data is so helpful. And so, of course, you can do your best to plan for it, and we can do all of that foundation work for a brand new business. Maybe you have the experience from a past business, which is super helpful. But I feel like most of my clients find me with already some kind of established business. Doesn't mean it's anything crazy, but they at least have a reference point for where they are and where they want to go.
Okay.
But I've worked with plenty of startups too, and that's also just fun because that's when you get to work with the founder who is building something for the first time. And those are especially the clients who, when I finally send them the thing that I've been working on for all of this time and asking them these questions for and get emotional, is usually those people because it's the first time this thing that has only lived in their head is coming to life for the first time.
Yeah.
And like I said, freaking love that moment.
Yeah.
So I love working with all of them, but I guess it could be argued too that if you're starting a business, you're also pivoting from something else. So
Yeah.
you're pivoting from corporate, or you have been a stay-at-home mom and that has been your job for a very long time. And now you're like, do I want to start a little something for myself?
Yeah.
So I guess I just worked my way into of like, I think we're all in a transition. So I think
That's very
that's
fair.
when people find me.
It sounds like both bring different experiences, and so that feels good though.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of times if you haven't been around this kind of work before, so say you're a therapist or like you're a nurse who wants to start a business and you're getting things going and then you start to feel something happening, but because you're not in this world that I live in, you don't know what it is. So you just start to feel like something is missing, or why doesn't this look like I want it to? Or like we were saying earlier, why isn't this attracting the kind of people that I want? And all of those questions are things that should lead you to something like this, which I don't think enough people know. Which doesn't mean it needs to be me, but a lot of times that means there needs to be some more soul searching, either about yourself or about your business, so that it can inform those things instead of you just spinning your wheels over and over again.
Right.
Because then you're gonna go crazy and then you might rage quit before you've had a
Before you
chance
even get
to,
started.
yeah, before you have a chance to actually sit down and figure out what it is you even actually want. So
Yeah.
I always just hope I catch founders in time to be like, you don't have to quit. Hold on, wait,
Do
at
it.
least try this thing or read this book or something to get your brain starting to think in a different way.
Yeah.
And I always think about things like this, like the language that other people speak that we don't have. So
Yes.
you speak a therapy language that I don't have, and I speak a creative marketing language that maybe you don't have. And how do we find each other at the right moments? I didn't know what I needed was a trauma therapist. Turns out I did. And my life has changed, but I didn't know. I didn't have the language for that. It's a
Well, and
little,
I was just
God.
gonna say, I think too, when we're like starting ventures, we're taught like, okay, make a business plan. Okay,
Mhm.
have a financial plan. Okay, start. There's no, at least from the world I came from, which is therapy, right? They didn't teach us how to run a business at all. I learned very quickly that you have to have people who their zone of genius is the thing that you is not yours, and getting
Yeah.
those people to support you. But I do really like the point of, okay, when you're in a space where you know something is missing in your business and you've done the traditional things,
Mhm.
that's when people come see you.
And I think the key into finding those people is the community, which I
Yeah.
didn't have for what month is it? August? I've had for 5 months. I've been in business 20 years and I haven't had a community of other female business owners who I can say, have any of you felt like this X, Y, and Z?
Yep.
And then, of course, there are like a million women who are like, me right now, or me. And here's what
Yeah.
I did. Here's the book that I read. Here's the podcast I listened to help get me through it. And yeah, you're not going to find those people by yourself. Like
No.
me trying to Google, why am I unhappy in my business? Did not give very many good results, as you can imagine. But then as soon as you start talking to other women, it becomes pretty clear pretty quick.
Yeah. But I think
So,
that's a really important point and recommendation to make to all female founders is getting involved in your community because business ownership can be very isolating and
mm,
put you in a silo. And if you're not actively doing things to connect with people, not even just in your industry, but outside of your industry, then that can really, and I'm not also just saying for networking, I mean for
no,
you
yes,
and
same.
your
Yeah.
sole purpose to end your business. Because I can't tell you like how many therapist networking events I go to, which I love them, but they serve a very different purpose than getting together with female founders to work through what we're facing as females and as founders, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. You gotta have both, I think. People
yeah.
who do get it and people who don't. Because you and I bonded at a generic women's founders a thing, but we connected on mental health, even though I'm not in your industry.
Mhm.
And then we also connected about me talking about your business.
About you
And you're
need your
not,
filth.
I'm sorry, not sorry, which is another thing I'm trying to
Just
own
doing
is
your
like
job.
it's okay to be bold, which
Yeah.
I think is that's a narrative also from my history of be quiet and don't offend anybody and don't I'm trying to step into this. No, girl, you need to hear this. I want you to be
Yeah.
successful. Let me
But
tell
also, I
you.
think that's honestly what separates an aligned business owner and a business owner is when you can actually say what you need to say. And it's something that people not only hear, but appreciate. There's a different way of, like I say, you've been reading me for filth, but really, you in a very loving way, we're like, hey, that's interesting. We should talk about it versus critiquing or doing it in a way that's harmful or hurtful. And
Yeah.
there's not a lot of spaces where we are unprotected to accept that in a good way. And if we weren't in the same space, I don't think that ever would have been a conversation we could have even had, right?
Yeah.
The community aspect, though, is a non-negotiable for any founder. And I think that's honestly I think this is also like when people are in corporate, when people are just working their careers, still community outside of your organization is so important. And oftentimes, even when we're in corporate, or in a career that might not be corporate, we network within, not
Hmm.
outside of, and that doesn't empower and strengthen you in a way that you could have different lenses, if that makes sense.
100%.
It gives different perspectives on how you can approach things in ways that serve you, not
Hmm.
just the place you're working for.
Yeah, if I only used to go to designer networking groups, how am I ever going to learn that other jobs exist? Or that's what you do? I want to
Right.
learn about that. Can we meet? Or like,
Yeah.
you're just, you're taking away so many opportunities of yourself if you stay in that kind of small circle instead of branching out into all different. I prefer to meet people in different industries because I find it so
Oh,
fascinating.
I love it. Yeah.
And then for what you were saying earlier of being aligned enough to be able to tell somebody, I also, this is obvious, I think people can feel your intention. I feel like as long as it is always coming from a place of, I want to see you succeed and not, actually, I think you're a competitor and let me see how I can take you down a few pegs because you're too confident and I don't like that makes me feel insecure and all that bullshit.
But yeah.
But instead of when you win, I win, I want to see you win. So here's what I would suggest. Take what works, leave what doesn't. You're not going to offend me. But as
Right.
long as it's always in that kind, collaborative experience where I say a lot in my content, I am never going to make anyone feel bad. What got you to this point in your business worked amazingly until it didn't. And
Right.
that's fine. What you did, what you knew how to do, whatever you made in Canva, amazing. I'm not going to judge that, but let's get you to the next level now. We're going to build on what you already have built. Whereas
Mhm.
I feel like too many people come from this lens of, oh, that's what you've been doing? Like,
Yeah.
are you really?
And I
You
think
don't know
that's,
this?
but I think that's what keeps people from reaching out, and what keeps people in their silos is the fear of judgment instead of, no, girl, we got this together. You grow, I grow. We want
Mhm.
to actually genuinely support one another instead of seeing each other as competitors, especially in my industry, right? Okay, I would say, because it's my industry, there's so many therapists, but oftentimes there's therapist shortages. But so that means we all have to compete, but that's not what it needs to be. Like, if you want to like feed into that unhealthy narrative, sure, but it's way more healthy for you to feed into like, how can we support one another? And I
Mhm.
come up across people who are really just trying to compete, and I'm like, that's not how I'm.
That's not the vibe. But
No.
yeah, when you're talking about therapy and for example, is so intimate and personal, you have to get someone to trust you before they're ever going to open up. I feel like it's the same kind of a thing when you're working with clients in other industries of,
Yeah.
yeah, if you make them feel stupid or you make them feel like they haven't done a good job up until this point, why would they open up to you? Why would
Right.
they tell you
No.
more things or hire you or whatever?
No.
And so I always try to lead with a no judgment, I just want to see you win kind of a vibe. And I feel like hopefully people can pick that up for me. And
Yeah.
so they know it's never coming from a place of judgment. Yeah.
Well, and for you, I feel like that's so important because there is so much owning a business, and the feelings behind that. Those things can be so tied and linked that if there's any pivots or suggestions to pivots, especially when people have owned their businesses for so long, right? It can be so hurtful, but your entire job is to help and support. And hopefully your clients are definitely coming to you for that. But it's sitting with them in that this transition can be hard, but it doesn't mean you were doing anything wrong. And exactly what you said, you've gotten to this point using what you've used, but it doesn't mean we
Mhm.
can't improve it.
I also think something that therapy has taught me is that people are going to be ready when they're ready. You can't,
Absolutely.
so even if I give all of these recommendations from a place of kindness and wanting to help, but they're not ready to hear it, I'm not going to push that, of course.
Right.
People have to be ready for that, which I
Yeah.
have found for myself in my therapy experience of I can remember, oh yeah, I remember when this therapist told me that and it didn't click back then, but it does now. Just being okay with the fact that people are all on their own different journeys and never taking it personal. If they didn't do something that you said, that doesn't actually mean anything about you. That just means they're on their own journey. And
Yeah.
I don't know, again, things that feel so simple and yet took me until my 30s to learn.
Oh, yeah. No, I completely understand. And I think these are the things that we don't normalize or have conversations around. And so then it's just when you get it, it's, oh, I can't tell anyone I just gave myself permission because they're going to be like, why didn't you before? Right. But we don't all the time, and we just don't
Yeah.
talk about it.
I think there's this frustration that comes along with it too, or as something that I've experienced in my life. I've become like the go-to person in my circle when someone else is experiencing it. They're like, you should talk to my friend Chelsea. She's been through this too. And I always have to tell the person that is between us, that's having us talk, I always have to tell them, be prepared for nothing to change. Like, be
Yeah.
prepared for me to tell them what's probably going to happen and what they've been experiencing. And they're going to feel red for filth or whatever. And then nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you can't get mad at the person for just not being there yet. All you can do is be kind, give guidance, and when they're ready. So, Maybe
No,
that's more therapy, personal related than business related, but
it's funny you say that though, because I think it's the same. I could totally picture someone coming to you and wanting you to be like, I just need direction, but not wanting to put in the work to understand why they want to operate their business, or seeing the in-depth questions you give them and being like, oof, that's
mhm,
too much, too deep, right? But
yeah.
that means they're not ready for it, and that's completely okay. But then
Hmm.
you might not be the person to work with, and that's hard, but also okay.
You do human design stuff, right? Am
I love
I
human
remembering that
design
stuff?
stuff.
Okay, so I just learned about my human design that my aura
I'm new
sees,
to this, just so you know.
oh,
So
okay, the auras.
okay.
I'm gonna get the words wrong, but it was like some people, some auras repel and retract, but my aura apparently sees, I think it was penetrates, like penetrates someone's identity very directly, which can make people feel very uncomfortable if they're not ready for that. And I was like, wow, you've just described my entire life actually in that one sentence. So,
Yep.
because I'm always like, tell me all the things. I want to hear all about you. But yeah, if someone's not ready for that, I will repel them like
Hard.
crazy.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yep.
And
And
that's
when
okay.
it's completely okay, but also, do you remember a point when you were in your business where that was absolutely not okay and we had to conform immediately so we could bring on people?
Of course. And also in corporate all the time.
Oh yeah.
No one wants you to see them like that
No.
in a corporate environment, which I get. I wouldn't want someone to see me like that in a room full of people I sometimes see. But in this kind of a work, it's so different where you are your business to an extent. I always make the point to clarify with my clients that you, the person, and you, the business, are two completely separate entities
Yes.
because
Yep.
a lot of times women wrap them into one. And
Well,
if
and
my
our
business
success
fails,
then is defined, yep, based in
yep,
our business, which is
yep.
not healthy.
So if something fails, then I'm a failure and taking all of these things on for yourself. But you can't have one without the other, is my point, because they are separate things. And so, yeah, I can understand if you don't want to be seen. But I also think this astrology, human design, all this, particularly human design, even though I know it's been around for a very long time, I've been hearing about it for a very long time. It seems like it's having a wave right now where everyone wants to
Yes.
talk about their human design.
Oh, I'm
And
seeing it
I'm
everywhere.
secretly like, people finally want to talk about their identity and who they are. I'm so excited.
Yes.
Please give me all the information about who you are.
You're like, I want it.
I want it, but I want you to feel comfortable with giving it. So,
Oh yeah.
anyway,
But I think this is the difference in what makes in entrepreneurship versus aligned entrepreneurship is the ability to do the work underneath to make sure that your business serves you and not is a disservice to you. And
yeah,
part of that is owning your authenticity and aligning with your business strategy as a business and also individually, but separately as well, separately and
yeah,
together, if that makes sense.
yeah. To support you as the person and not
Right.
to run you over with a truck repeatedly every day.
Which
Nobody wants that.
Which I do want to name. I do believe every business owner has to go through that in order to
Mhm.
come to a place of aligned business ownership, or has to observe it in somebody else to be like, I will never operate that way,
Yeah,
and start from a place of alignment into their business. I don't think if I didn't break all my boundaries and work way past my hours and do any of that, that I would have ever shifted into an aligned space of business ownership, or even honestly went on a few different business adventures that I'm currently on either. I don't think I would have even given myself the opportunity.
yeah, which I think goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning of people find us in crisis because shit has to hit the fan first before they're
Absolutely.
like, oh, I guess I need help because maybe they've never experienced it before. Or,
Yeah.
yeah, if you can learn from someone else, great. But I find that's usually not the case. You have to have your own shit hit the fan before you're like, I'm never
Oh yeah.
letting that happen again, ever
Yeah.
again in my life.
Oh yeah.
So
Or realizing your business doesn't serve you in some way to where it's like we gotta
burn
re
it down. Just kidding.
burn it down.
The amount of
Well,
time my
I mean,
clients will come and be like, should I just burn the whole thing down? I'm like, let's talk about it. Maybe. I don't know.
it's so funny. I told a mentor that literally in I think it was the end of June, I was like, I'm gonna burn it all down. I'm burning everything down. Let's just be done. And she was like, you literally put changes in your schedule on the first of this month, and they're not gonna go into effect until August. Maybe breathe through this. And I was like,
Maybe give it till then. Or
fine.
also, I feel like so often people want to just 180 stuff. They think that's the fix. And I'm always like, no, no, we can take small steps and learn, try different things, see what's going to work for you. That's how we get to a conclusion.
Oh yeah.
And instead, people are like, I'm going to change everything about my business and then I'm going to be happy. And I can almost guarantee you that you will not be
No.
because that didn't actually solve anything.
And sometimes we
So,
have to also give ourselves permission for trial and error in order to figure
mhm,
out what actually serves us and what we might think serves us, but then actually doesn't, and like how it works with everything. We can
mhm,
negotiate with ourselves and with our business practices in ways that still serve us. And we
mhm.
forget that sometimes.
Agreed.
Thank you so much for coming on and telling us more about you and also just being so willing to be open and honest with your own experiences and how you are as an entrepreneur and specifically as an aligned entrepreneur. I really appreciate it and I'm very excited for our listeners to hear this.
Thank you for having me. And yes, I just want more business owners to be talking about the intersection of owning a business and your mental health. It's so crucial,
It is so crucial and that your business can serve you in that way and not be to your detriment.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
I was struggling in corporate with everything I got going on.
Oh
And so
yeah.
now I have the privilege of being able to figure it out for myself. So, yeah, I just want people to talk about it more and feel comfortable opening up about it.
Thank you for opening up about it. We appreciate you. And for all of our listeners and viewers, we will be attaching all of Chelsea's links so you can follow and stalk and get more of her info.
Or if you just want to see a cute dog, that's fine too.
Yes, if you want olive content, it will
Even her
all
vet
be there.
follows her. Okay.
That's adorable. Thanks
Okay.
so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Absolutely.
Okay.